knows that, guys. You're not like held in here. There's no handcuffs or anything, unless you want them or whatever. But you are welcome to leave anytime you like. I mean, I'll take it personally, really offensively, but you know, you're allowed to leave if you like. I've also asked for the music to be turned down a bit, which it will be in a few minutes, because I hate fucking competing with loud shit, like my own voice. And I'm supposed to stand right back here, because that's where the camera is. I'm shit at that. That's not going to happen. So I'm really sorry about that. I'll try my best. For those of you that don't know me, if you don't want to be here, you're in a workshop, so please leave now. If you just came in for a quick, I'm just going to sit down, wrong place. So my name's Deb. I called myself the kink shrink a long time ago as a bit of a joke. I thought it was quite funny. It's kind of stuck, and it's used quite a lot. I am a therapist, psychologist, family coach, neurodivergent coach. I do those sort of things as a living. I turned 60 last month, so I've been doing kink and since I was 17, so like 43 years. But on top of that, it's one of my areas of specialism when it comes to the work that I do as well. So I see a lot of people who are kinky and alternative. If you are in any form of psychology, I keep saying to people, because I know people write to me, I'm shit at this. I'm shit at sending out CPD certificates, but if you want one, just keep hassling me, you will get it eventually. I promise. So you can, if you're in, is anyone in psychology? I know a few of you are. Right, so if you're a therapist or anything else as well, if you want a free CPD certificate, write to me on FetLife or get my number afterwards. The only thing is I would need your real name and your real email. I can't really say, takes it up the R73. Do you know what I mean? That probably wouldn't go down well with your governing body, whoever they are. There is no real governing body in the UK. Let's also get rid of that shit, because there isn't one. So the idea of these workshops is that when we started them nearly 10 years ago, maybe 7 or 8, I don't know. Does anyone else feel like COVID was a Marvel blip? It just didn't happen. We lost everyone for 3 years. Or 2 years. That's what it felt like to me. And if you don't watch Marvel, that's completely fucking over your heads. But there was a blip where people disappeared. There's a couple of spaces here. Would you be willing to go around that way, or would that not work? If you wouldn't, please say, or whatever. Or we can try and get another chair, or there's one there as well. Sorry. So the idea of these workshops is that they're a Q&A. You ask whatever you want. It can be about anything about kink. It can be about the psychology of kink. It can be about genetics or epigenetics if you want about kink. Why are we born this way? It can be how to do kink. It can be how to have relationships. It can be communication. It can be, hey, I've got this problem. However, this isn't therapy, so I'm quite blunt and direct. I will say that. And I wouldn't want you to bring anything up that, like if you're sharing a massive trauma or something, people say, yeah, but I'm all right sharing my trauma. I'm not all right with you sharing your trauma, because I don't know what it's going to do for everyone else. So you can bring something up lightly, even if it is fairly large, and we can talk about it. But I never know what these sessions are going to cover. Like, that's what's quite interesting and exciting about them. What normally happens is I say over to you, don't get a question for 5 minutes, so everyone looks awkward and goes, fucking hell, I wish someone would talk. I'm not going to talk. And then we get loads, and then it flows. And if you've got anything to say on what somebody else is saying, then please also put up your hand and put your view forward. I might disagree with it and say, why the fuck are you saying that? But it's a good discussion, isn't it? In a way, it's good to talk about these things. When I started them, there was no one talking about psychology and kink, or how to have relationships, or what to do, or even how to do kink. Like, I've got a massive writer on how to clean all of your toys properly. I don't just do psychology. And as I say, I do a lot of neurodivergence, family coaching, all sorts. And I'm a supervisor as well, for what it's worth. If you see a psychologist or a psychotherapist or a counsellor in the UK, we're not governed by anybody yet either. Like, people say, oh, yes, I'm registered with the BACP. It doesn't really mean anything. There is no governing body directly connected to the government yet that says that we have to be registered in any way, shape or form. So if you're going to go and see someone, check out who they are, check out how you think or feel about them. You look so perplexed at that. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I've got, I've got, if I talk about clients, I've got their permission to talk about them. Can I just make that clear? I've got their clear consent. I do not talk about people unless I have full consent. And also, when I have clients that are in this room, I also don't talk about them. If I've got a friend in the room, I talk about them if they ask me a question. And I say, well, I know you, you're a friend. But if a client was here and asked me, you wouldn't know they were my client, because that's very different. I've got 2 American psychologists who are married that I see as a couple, but are also kinky and poly and see me for all of that. I don't know if we can get some more chairs or if anyone can move around anywhere. Don't want you to have to stand up. Have we got any more chairs? There's a little bit of space there or here or even up here. I wouldn't want to separate you though. Can you squeeze it? So, yeah, I see them and I find it quite interesting that they have to be very registered, very licensed, and I don't have to be, yet they pick me. But yeah, do ask. And I would also argue that please check as well that anywhere you go, actually, whether it is Canada or whether it is the States, none of us have to properly be trauma trained either. That's a completely different form of training. That's a completely different form of course. And I think it's a good idea that we have some form of trauma training, regardless of whether I'm seeing a 7-year-old or a 12-year-old or a 55-year-old or a 70-year-old or anything else as well, because trauma does come into a lot of things, but we don't have to have any of that. Anyway, so we were going to run these down. The idea was that we would run it down to nothing. When 2 or 3 people turned up, we would just have a chat. 7 years ago, it never happened, which is a great compliment. I'm very thrilled at that. And a lot of people want to do what I do, like have these talks and do them. And I feel very privileged. I'm off to Norway soon. I talk at their national conference and I'm a little bit everywhere. So I also run a free workshop once a month online at Zoom, if you fancy as well. It's free of charge. Come along. If you follow me on FetLife, I'm the kink shrink. You can come to any of those as well. Again, they would be CPD for anyone who wants to know that. Sorry, it is going to be noisy out there. In the last venue, it was less because we were more enclosed. Lamb is looking for a new permanent home, and this will be taken into consideration. But I've got a fucking big gob, and I can project, so I will carry on projecting as best as I can. So, over to you. Who's got a question or who would like to start us off with anything today? Oh, straight away. Yes, please.
So I was in a.
If you can't hear, I'll repeat, okay?
I was in a dynamic that ended about 2 months ago, roughly, with a narcissist. And every time someone asks how I am, I feel like it's in relation to that. And in my mind, I keep talking about it in terms of like, oh yeah, I'm doing better, which I am. But it's like finding it hard to detach it from
Day to day.
stop bringing it up. Basically, I'd rather like I don't mind talking about it, but I don't want to always be talking about it. So I need to let.
So I'm assuming the dynamic was they were in charge and you, so it was a DS relationship with any specific gender or a male. So the question is, I've just come out of a dynamic and you mentioned the word narcissist. I mean, I think we all have narcissistic traits. So do you know what narcissism is? Like for those of you that don't, it's really when somebody is very much about themselves, looks after themselves, put themselves above all else, which we all do sometimes, don't we? It's healthy to have some narcissistic traits. To actually have narcissistic or any form of antisocial personality disorder of some kind, very few and far between. You're not going to meet many people, but it's a word we use a lot nowadays. I often hear the word psycho for I'm going to use men and women sometimes. It doesn't mean I miss anyone out. It's very much what the research is about. So I respect that there are many genders, many sexualities, and I'm also going to talk about research and stuff that does divide. So I apologize for that. Narcissist is often used around men. It's often used around people who just care about themselves, like your CEOs. Anyone here a Trump supporter? No, don't leave the time. If you are, we might have a little bit of a disagreement later, but that's fine. You know, people who look after themselves. However, a narcissistic wound will come from somebody who has had some serious things happen to them when they were younger, really, and they maybe haven't sorted out their stuff, potentially. And who knows, there are arguments that some of us are born this way, there are arguments that some of us are made this way. I come down in that whole thing of both matter. Like your serial killers, anything else as well. When you look at the research, it's very much to do with epigenetic, transgenerational scripting, possible genetics, possible brains mixed with environment, if you look at the research. So the question is, I'm often asked how I am after that. Please correct me if I get it wrong. And what I tend to do, you said, was I tend to say, oh, I'm getting better, because my assumption is that's what people are asking me.
Yeah, and I tend to sort of to bring it back to that, and I don't want that to be. I think it's because it's like a big thing that's happened recently.
Anything that's recent, like, you know, it takes a long time. The DSM-5 is a diagnostic manual that talks about how we diagnose people, what criteria you have to fulfill to be diagnosed with something. And what's interesting in that, like, it changed. The DSM-4 to 5 had a shift in it around grief, a big shift. It was one of the major shifts, but people didn't talk about it very much. And that's happened over the years, almost that grief is fine as long as it lasts a few weeks. That's not what grief does. When we're over a relationship, and I think with the power exchange, so the question here is, how do I not bring it up all the time? But it is new. It's a couple of weeks. Like, fucking hell, we're still involved in something. Anyone here in a power exchange relationship? In a power exchange relationship of any kind, or have been in their lives, or want to be in some form of power exchange where the dominant, someone takes charge, someone is telling you what to do regularly. To then go without that is a fucking huge change. If you've been asking someone, can I go to the loo? If you've been asking someone, can I orgasm? Can I brush my hair? Can I clean my teeth? That's quite a big shift, isn't it? If you're not asking all of those questions, but if you're looking forward to talking to someone, so who here has ever had a vanilla relationship or an equal relationship? Hope at least some form of relationship. You know, when you break up, it's really hard not to go, oh my God, I just saw a cat smiling and I thought of you. Or, fuck me, I just saw this picture, isn't it funny? It's really weird not to have that person to talk to, isn't it? Or to have that connection with. They're such a major part of our lives. How long did the relationship last for? A year. And that's substantial, isn't it? And of course, when you look at relationship stages, whether you believe these things or not, we go through stages in relationships. Have you heard of relationship stages where we start with that honeymoon period, lots of lust, lots of feelings? Lust and love, I mean, fuck me. We talk about red flags, don't we? How the fuck do you see red flags when all you're feeling is lust and love that are all red? They're really difficult to see or to even realise. And sometimes we can be so up for or needing a relationship or being loved by somebody that a lot of the time what actually happens is we don't see a lot of their faults. But if you look at what's happening in the brain when you're falling in love and lust with somebody, it is fucking literally insanity. You cannot keep it up. That's why the honeymoon period has to disappear. Otherwise, I mean, I know, like, when we're poly and stuff, we look for new relationship energy all the time. Fuck me, that stuff is knackering. It takes over our lives. It's a lot. And then we're up till 3 because we're talking to someone new. I'm talking to someone new at the moment, and the amount of hope you put into that. And then you're up till 3, and then you go, fuck, I've got to get up at 6. And you can't keep doing that. You will collapse. You will. That level of stress does lead to higher blood pressure, heart attacks, strokes, everything. It's really, and it leads to putting on weight and all sorts. It's really bad for us. So when something is still fairly new, which I would argue a year is, now, on average, people can often get engaged, married, even after a year. We're giving our submission straight away. How quickly does it take you to enter into a dynamic? What do you like to say in public and what do you really do in private are two different things, I think, as well. Because, oh, can I call you daddy? Can I call you sir? You're my submissive little bitch, or you're my little princess, or whatever. We can jump into that quite quickly because it turns our heads on. Would you agree that that's on average quite true? You've got that hope that that person is there. So I think you have to grieve. And grieving is okay, but grieving isn't necessarily sharing. I fucking hate and love the internet. I don't know how you all feel about it, but I think it's full of shit. I think it's got some really bad advice on it. It's got some so-called experts on it that are also full of shit. They can't show where they come from or what they do. They've maybe read something, they've maybe looked at something, and they can't. So that's a real issue. Who are you? What's your experience? What's your learning around this? And we get a lot of advice. But one of the things we tend to do online, I have an argument with somebody here fairly often about it. She'll say, I'm in A&E on Facebook. I don't really use Facebook. She'll say I'm in A&E. And I'll say, don't fucking do that. because it makes us worry about her. So we all then send her a message saying, oh my God, are you okay? What's happening? You know, maybe she should have gone to the vets because the cat ripped its nail or something. But it's a way of asking for attention sometimes. And that's good because we get a lot of attention. Who here takes a photograph more than once before they put it online? Who here plays about with their photographs more than once before they put it online? Or do you think about status before you put it up, or you fucking delete it really quickly because you get it wrong? It gets attention, doesn't it? And attention equals dopamine. Dopamine is a nice feel-good drug. Oh, look, I've got some attention. And then you've got that whole dating scene that says, I'm sorry, I didn't recognize you from your photograph. Like, you look like a completely different person. Realism is quite difficult. But realistically, when we start telling everyone our trauma and we start telling everyone our pain, is it good for us? What do you think? Do you think it's good for you to share? To an extent. What else would you say? Depends on the circumstance.
There's got to be a big enough level of trust.
Got to have trust. Okay. And were you going to say? In the right way. In the right way. Got to have their consent. Like, you know, by the way, I'm just going to and my trauma all over you. Probably isn't very good for somebody else. But a lot of us do develop those bonds. This is another set of phrases that gets taken completely the wrong way. Sharing trauma is not trauma bonding. Trauma bonding is when your trauma is triggered with somebody else. Just sharing your trauma with somebody is not trauma bonding. You are just connecting over having somebody to talk to. That's not trauma bonding. That really isn't trauma bonding. So again, that's really important to think about. But oversharing stuff, if you look at all the research around trauma, you can argue that some kink comes from trauma. You could say that. You can argue that kink, we're born into it. You can say that as well. You can say that some of our environment has influenced us to do it. We can look at genetics, we can look at epigenetics, and we can look at scripting, and we can look at the way we're brought up in our environment. But does that allow us to be who we are, or does it make us who we are? It's quite interesting. Am I really who I am? Or did the world make me who I am? We all like to think we've got a lot of free will, but actually when we're even rebelling against something, is that truly that free will? They're all interesting questions. We live in a world where right now everyone shares. Anyone ever look at shit or hear something from somebody else and think, fuck me, stop oversharing? I don't want to hear it. Anyone ever? Yeah? I hear it a lot, and it's even in my therapy room. No, I'm kidding. Right, so in my therapy room, it's fine. But is that person qualified, or do they know what to say to you not to make it worse? Because believe me, sometimes when you look at all the research and you look at all the bits and pieces around us sharing trauma, you can look at people like Bessel van der Kolk, you can look at Gabor Mate. I disagree with him when he talks about ADHD. That's something slightly different. So his attitude around neurodivergence is that it's caused by trauma. I disagree with that. There's too much research showing it's caused by genetics now. So a lot of what we talk about with trauma, though, is that I'm not sure where you can shove yourself comfortably anywhere. I'm really sorry. Sorry, don't say it. Or you can ask outside for another chair. They might be able to bring one in. I don't know if there'd be another chair. Sorry. So it's really important to understand that when you share trauma, it's really important to understand that when you share trauma, you are potentially re-traumatizing yourself. Do you know why? So when we share something that's really painful to us, we're recreating the pain. So when we're saying, I'm sort of okay, are we really okay? Or are we saying, fucking hell, I still hurt, but we're telling the other person I'm okay? I sit in the gym, my daughter runs a cheerleading gym, and I watch the gymnasts, and I watch somebody's about to do a really difficult tumble pass, like a round off back handspring, full twist somersault landing on your feet. Who the fuck ever wants to throw themselves backwards and do a full twist and land on their feet? It's quite impressive, really. But I've seen some horrific accidents. I've seen some horrible things. You know, you've got bones splitting through and stuff. And cheerleading is actually a really dangerous sport as it goes, especially when you're at Worlds or you're at those places where you've got these really high levels. And what's interesting is when you've got a coach who goes up to their athlete, can I come up to you? And they sort of say, listen, you've got this, you can do it. And they nod, right? Just as you did. They go, yeah, okay. And that isn't really necessarily what they're thinking or feeling. They might be thinking, I fucking can't, I'm terrified. I think I'm going to fall again. Because interestingly, when you've done it 3,000 times, one fall, we had a girl it's longer than that now, about 6 or 7 weeks ago. She did exactly that tumble, round off back handspring, full twist somersault, landed. She'd done it 9 times in the gym already. It's a standard tumble pass for her. She's very talented. She landed and it sounded like there was a gunshot in the gym. And she sort of like hit the deck. Now, one thing cheerleaders are taught is if anything like that happens, you create a circle around somebody, you give them privacy or you leave. So my daughter was there. Everyone left the gym. Brian went over straight away. When she tried to move her leg, where you've got from your, I'm not going to go into all the medical whatever, just to let you know, so from her knee to her ankle was bent in half. There was no bone that was solid. It was a serious, serious break. Phoned the ambulance. It's going to take 2 hours for them to get there. They picked her up, stabilised it, took her straight there to the hospital. And she's fine. She's very young. Her bones will heal quickly. Her muscle, everything else will not, especially she's a world-class athlete. This kid has won worlds 2 to 3 years every time, and she wants to get back and do it again. If people keep asking her how she is or whatever, and she keeps thinking about it, when your coach comes up to you and says, you've got this, you can, who here is a submissive, actually? Let's take it this way. Who's here a submissive, but fairly new, maybe? Or newish? Like, can I talk about what you've just bought the other one? Yeah, is that okay? So I just witnessed what's bought here is a dildo to be inserted. And your comment to me was, I might regret that later because it's going to be inserted in you, not her, right? So, and you're looking at that and you look at it and you go, fuck me, I don't think I can. Where she's going, you fucking can and you fucking will, right? And when we're dominant, we try and make those things happen, don't we? Because we're going to probably get a lot of lube or not if we're in a bad mood. Don't piss them off. Be careful about pissing them off too much. But we might think about it, or we might be kind and we might stretch first. We might take our time. We might teach the body to take it. Or if we want to be a complete cunt, we're straight in with deal with it. Here's a hammer and a sled and we're just going for it. Maybe. I don't suggest that one, right? It's very bad, right? However, our orifices are fucking amazing. Like, they give birth and they do all sorts of things. You can shit out a baby from your asshole and you can shit out a baby from a vagina. Like, those things can stretch. It's a fallacy to turn around and say, by the way, that they never stretch back. It's a ridiculous phrase to make. Fucking vaginas are incredible things. You're not loose and flappy in the wind because you've had a kid. Like, that's just such a heap of shit. Or if you've had something giant shoved up there, you're not then this big for the rest of your life. Otherwise, all your insides will fucking drop out. Can it make a difference? Does your cervix stay slightly open? Yes. And if you do cervical type play, please know what you're doing, because when you start shoving things up cervixes, you're going very far into your internals. The same with sounding and other things. So the body remembers trauma. It knows what it's doing around it, and it puts itself into quite a perilous state when we're in the middle of it again. If we use BDSM to replay something that's really hurt us on a traumatic level, it won't always work out. We say it's very therapeutic. It can be. But fuck me, as a person doing it, got to get it right. Because as soon as they get it slightly wrong, your body on a cellular level has this incredible memory that responds to it. Years ago, I saw a little boy who had surgery and he passed out if ever he spoke about it. Because what happened to him was, in the middle of the operating table, he woke up and he felt what was going on. So they re-anesthetized him immediately. He screaming. They re-anesthetized him. He went straight back under. And that's fine then. You're kidding me. It's not fine. And he went to a lot of therapists who made him talk about it. And every time he spoke about it, guess what he did when he got to that bit? He passed out in the therapy room. Every single time, because his body remembered what had happened to him. So the key there is not to talk about it or to do other things around it and then to eventually get into a stage where he could talk about it. And they'd been to see 3 or 4 therapists, and then he'd been with me for about 6 months. We hadn't even mentioned it yet. And they said, fucking hell, when are you going to do it? I went, when he's ready. When we've gotten to a place where he can manage that. And it took quite a few months later, and then he could, and he eventually stayed awake, and he was all right. When you talk about things, you open that wound. Do you want that for yourself? No. And the people that you're talking to Do they know how to handle what they're hearing? It might just be, yeah, I'm fine. I'm good, thank you. Listen, who in here is English? Any of you English? I'm not. I am, but I'm not, right? So I have an interesting history. I've got Polish and Russian on one side, escaping from on an onion boat on one side, and my mum's Swiss, and that's Swiss and Italian. So I have a few passports where I mainly keep my Swiss passport, and I do have an English passport as well. Heritage is interesting. Fuck me, the English do not want to talk. But what we want to do is often talk about things the way we think it will please somebody else, or we'll give it politeness, or we're happy to share things and say, no, I'm fine. And that, we used to call it fucked up, insecure, and it's actually feelings inside not expressed. However, we're now telling English people to talk. And that's interesting because fuck me, they talk too much to the wrong people as well sometimes. We're also getting that wrong. How do we find the balance? If we're using BDSM to replace stuff, please be aware that it can bring up stuff as well. If we're just having conversations, that can bring up stuff too. Do you have somebody else to talk to? That's the other thing, isn't it? It's why a lot of people come to therapy. We don't have that person that we can talk to. And then what does that person know when we're talking to them anyway? Look, AI is really helpful nowadays. You can talk to it as much as you like. It will give you some good tools. It will give you some good things to use. It will not help you help yourself to then make those changes. That needs two people. That needs a mind. My job is not under threat from AI. It'll give you the tools, but my actual job is not under threat at all. Because we need someone with the empathy, with the understanding, who can also turn around and say sometimes, why the fuck are you doing that? That's bad for you. Or let's think of another way of doing that. Please stop that. Now, I don't say it quite that bluntly. It's close in my therapy room because I am quite direct, for those of you that know me. But we have to give people other ways. When someone comes into therapy, they're like a drowning man. A friend of mine wrote this years ago for transactional analysis. It's Adrian Lee's Drowning Man. I don't know why it's a man. To me, it's a human. They're drowning up to here in water, and they've got weights on their feet or on their ankles, and they've got balloons in their hands and arms. And these are all of our coping mechanisms. Alcohol, drugs, sex, gambling, depression. Yep, depression is a tool in order to help us get away from something. And all the stuff that's happened to us is that those weights on our ankles. It's really fucking dangerous to cut off the weights and the person flies away. It's just as dangerous to cut off all the balloons and they drown. So like, for example, if you meet somebody who has an alcohol problem, I'm an alcoholic, I drink 30 to 40 units a day, well, you need to stop that. That's great, that works. I've tried that technique, it doesn't work, funny enough. Plus, it's really lethal to stop anyone from drinking. If you're on 20 units a day and you stop them, they're very likely to have a heart attack. You need to know your biology as well. It's a slow, gradual decrease as things go through. But what you've got to do, and what I ask a lot of my clients to do, is to write a letter, a love letter to alcohol. What is it giving you? It's your best friend. It listened to me, it was there for me. What's it giving you? Telling people how you are. What are you getting from it? And where else do you get that from? Or how else do you replace that? Is really important. Because I can turn around and say to you, well, stop that. That's not good for you. But then what have you got? So we also need to explore what is it we're not getting from something. If we take it away, it's no good just taking everything away from somebody. I don't know if you saw, have any of you seen that research where they put a rat in a cage with heroin-laced water and water? Any of you heard of that one? So they put a rat in a cage with normal water and heroin-laced water. And they went, see, it's really fucking addictive, that shit. The rat drinks it all the time. So would I if I lived in a fucking cage by myself with nothing in it. I mean, wouldn't you? So then what they did is they tried, again, the person that did this, they've got TED Talks and stuff. They're not somebody I'd follow. There's been a lot of stuff that's not good about them as a human. But what then they did do is they put some rats in a rat park. Rats love sex more than humans. Fuck me, those things like to fuck. They're forever at it, right? If you wonder, you're never more than 6 foot away from a rat, right? 6 foot away from a rat. They are everywhere, and boy, do they like to fuck. They survive everything. They do this thing called lordosis with running and stuff. They're so interesting to watch around their mating habits. So if you're by yourself and you can't fuck, then that's going to be a problem. As a human, we've got a different brain. We have to learn how to handle that one. But as a rat, very different. They love to play. If you've ever had rats, they are really fucking intelligent and very friendly, and they love to play. They like balls to play with, they like tunnels to dig, and they love to eat, and they like good food. When they put a group of rats that could fuck each other, that had toys in, that had an area where they could go shit and piss in peace, and they were fine, and they could eat whatever they wanted, guess how many rats went for the heroin-laced water? Do you know how many? It was 0.01% or something. None of the rats went for the heroin-laced water. It's about our environment. So if I turn and say to you, stop doing that, I'm not taking into account the care for your environment, and neither are you. So what we have to work out is, what am I getting from this? When you break up from somebody that you have a power exchange relationship with, it's not that different from breaking up with somebody where you have a vanilla relationship with. My mum died 4 years ago, and my dad has been with her since she was, I could shout out in a minute, honestly, how. So when she died 4 years ago, my dad hasn't been with anybody else, right? He doesn't really know how to clean. I just got him a cleaning lady. He's not as good. He doesn't know how to do these things very well. But also he can't. He's fucking 90. And if you try and bend down and do the bottom of your shower when your knees are gone and you're 90, he's not. But part of that is that environment that he grew up in. He sort of knows how to use the washing machine. He sort of knows how to cook. But my mum did all of that. She had a role in that. Now, whose fault is that? Society, everything else, we can go into it for ages. But we all take on roles, even in relationships now, when we should know better, whether it's mental load or different things. And power and hierarchical relationships tend to take that more traditional view of, you do this, I'll make the decisions. But if you let somebody make all the decisions for you, or they're influencing what you're going through, if they've got a manipulative reason or cause, potentially, if they do have something some form of antisocial, you won't know that till too late. You get love bombed, you get looked after. Come on, how many of you have turned around and met someone brand new and said, by the way, I've got these terrible habits, I smell like this, I don't wipe my ass properly, or I do this and I do that. That is not the way you present to somebody, is it? Because you want the person to like you. So very rarely do you turn around and say, these are all my worst sides. One of my favorite questions that I ask somebody when I meet them is, what wouldn't you want me to know about you? Or what have you done when a scene goes really wrong? Because they turn and say, scenes have never gone wrong. I'm like, I don't fucking believe you. If you've been in this for as long as I have, you have had a scene go wrong. You have done something wrong. You have broken somebody's consent or had yours broken in some way, shape or form. Because that is standard. Because we're not mind readers, because we don't know. So it's really important that we have to understand that we get lied to, but it's not necessarily a manipulative, nasty thing. It's just called falling in love or falling in lust. Plus, how many of you here find it quite difficult to find a partner sometimes? I do. I definitely do. Maybe we can be too hopeful. We have all these ideals. I just wrote a really big piece. I went to see a film called Materialists. It was just out. And it's about this woman who, what she does is she's like a matchmaker for a living. People pay her to match her with other people. And everyone's got a list. You've got a list in your head. We've all got a list of what we would like. It's ridiculous if our lists are too much. It's also ridiculous if our lists are too little. I'll take anyone, I'm just desperate, I'm grateful. You have to think about the consequence of what are you looking for and what are you after. I really know I'm not back there, but I'm trying to shout a lot, so I'm really sorry. So when we look for somebody, we often don't look at the more negative things about them because we're so hopeful about what we think we could get, and they might tick a few bits of our list. We then have to look at, what did I do in that? Then what did I ignore? What can I grow from here? It's all well and good blaming somebody else. I've just rewritten the piece on consent in the guide, and I've got a massive writing on consent. I don't, 7 of you might walk out about now. I don't actually think consent exists. But let me explain that, right? Of course, we need to agree to what we're doing. We need to understand the implication of what we're doing. Do you truly get it? Do you understand that if you get punched in the hips as much as I did, that when I hit my 50s instead of my 20s that my bursa have split, so I have injections into my hip bursas now. I didn't fucking know that when I was 20. I really didn't know that. I'm not always, when we hear the amount of, so if you grew up before my generation, domestic violence was purely physical, wasn't it? So it's if you're physically abused or sexually abused. What have we added in the last 6 years? Mental, emotional, financial, coercion, control. I like degradation. I really like degradation. So I've just lost 6 stone, for example, right? But even at my biggest and my smallest, regardless of that, I like being called a fat, worthless, loose cunt. And people go, oh my God, how can you say it to yourself? Because I fucking love it, that's why. And I like it when someone says it to me. I'm a cup queen. I love it if my partner sleeps with other people. People always go, oh my God, you're my dream. It's not as easy as that, right? It's really not. And if you don't balance it with an I love you, I've got you, I'm caring for you, that could degrade my whole personality after a while if that's all I hear. And then I might say, yeah, that's great, but it can cause some damage after a while, unless you've got a pretty good self-esteem. Do you like yourself? Are you okay? Are you a people pleaser? When we look at neurodiversity, there's a lot of people pleasing, especially in ADHD. Especially in ADHD. Anyone here got ADHD or think they have? Yep. So there's a lot of people pleasing in ADHD. We will turn around and, because what we've learned is we're not acceptable as ourselves, so we try and get it right for other people. And that linked in with a submissive. What we often know in trauma responses are fight, flight, and freeze. Have you heard of those? Fight, flight, freeze? Have you also heard of friend, fuck, flop, foe, and fawn? So, friend, fuck, flop, foe, fawn. In submission, 2 of the most dangerous ones are fawning and fucking. Because if you're pleasing means, yep, I'm just going to take anything you give me, I'm going to do whatever you say, but I don't really want to do it, that's not consent. But it sounds like consent. And we've got to be really careful about the damage we do to ourselves then as well. So accountability, so I read into this, is what can I do differently and what do I need to know about myself? Do I go into submission healthily? Do I go into dominance healthily for me and for the other person? The amount of people I meet who are straight into fucking get on your knees, bitch, and wear this and do that. And I'm like, fuck off, you absolute cunt. You should give me respect. What the fuck for? You haven't earned it. I don't even know who you are. Do you earn more than I do? Are you more intellectual than I am? Do you have your life together? Like, what are you offering me? Like, what are you giving? Now, I do not judge people by what they earn and what they do and what they wear. Right? That's not what I mean. And that fucking approach really pisses me off. Because you're not owed dominance. You're not owed submission by anybody. But when we get it, it can be fleeting and really attractive. And especially if we've got ADHD, that friend, fuck, flop, foe, and fawn, a few of those are really dangerous. Really fucking dangerous. Because, yes, I'll do that for you. No, I don't normally do that, but I'll do it this time. Did you break any of your own boundaries? Did you change anything? These are not for answering here. These are questions for you to go and think about. Did you let go of yourself? On some level, did you know that something wasn't quite right? What stopped you from acting beforehand? They're really good questions to ask because we tend to say, oh no, the kink scene is such a lovely place. Like, we've got really good communication. We're so much better than vanillas, you know, and we're so much better because we're poly. We have all these conversations. Lies to ourselves. Because kinks are still fucking fuck up. They still lie. I'm sorry, I've had many a kinky partner and poly partner cheat on me. I'm a fucking cup queen who's polyamorous. I remember getting into bed once, or out of bed, can't remember one of those, but around my bed, my partner's in the shower, his phone dings. And I said, you've got a message. And he said, oh, can you read it to me? Well, that was stupid, wasn't it? Because it said, I can't wait for us to be together when you get rid of that old fat slag. That's what it said, and they were talking about me. Now, could he have been setting that up for me? Yes. But he didn't normally do things like that. He wouldn't have engaged with somebody who didn't know our dynamic, normally. So I was like, what the fuck? And he went white. Because he had told her all these things. He went, but I don't mean it. I went, you know. I said, I wouldn't mind, but. So he said, when I actually confronted him on it, he had told her all these, he had told her what she wanted to hear. He said he didn't really mean it and he didn't want to leave me. My point was, you just fucking dissolved 5 years of partnership by lying. And that doesn't work. Why on earth do I want to be tied up or trussed up when I don't know if you have got my back? That you're not looking after me, that you're not caring for me. And have I lied to people? Hell yes, we all do. What we have, especially everywhere, is fucking double standards. We do. We have a go and we speak morally about what somebody does or doesn't do, but actually we're not always on the side of right, are we? If you truly admit it, do you have some double standards? Like most of us do most of the time. So we have to look at our part in it. What could I do differently? What happened? Why? Why is it that you want to say to most people, oh, I'm fine, I'm much better now? What if that isn't even true? And again, not asking for answers. People expect you to be better fairly quickly. If you notice that when something really shit happens, like after my mum died, actually a good example is my ex-husband. His parents ran a church. He married me, that's quite funny. Right, so my ex-father-in-law and mother-in-law ran a church. Very free, very believing, very hands up in the air, very spiritual. I got banned twice. Once was for somebody who said, I'm so glad, so it shows how old I am, that the age of consent for anyone who is gay and male for anal sex has not been taken down from 18 to 16. I said, what the fuck is wrong with you all? Of course it should be the same for everyone, regardless of gender. I got banned from the church for a while. And then I got banned again when another woman said that she was really pleased that she'd taken antibiotics for 2 days and they hadn't worked. But then she prayed to Jesus, who then cured her. And I got banned again because I said, you do know it takes at least 24 to 48 hours for antibiotics to work. It might not have been Jesus. It might have been, because that helps, but it's probably the antibiotics kicking in. I got banned again. Terrible. So, but they are very, when someone had a baby in their church, they were incredible. My God, were they caring for 6 weeks. Somebody else brought you a dinner every single day. Somebody else did things for you. It was amazing. But then at 6 weeks, it just cut off like that. Why at 6 weeks? What if one needs 8 or one needs 6 or one needs 4? Why do we have these things where we look like we're really caring, but then somebody says, actually, I'm really struggling. I've got terrible postpartum depression. I'm not good. Can you carry on? They would say, oh no, we've got others to go to now. I'm sorry, that to me is like praying for a fucking parking space at Waitrose. It's like lip service. It's not. So we have to look about what can I do? What can I do differently? What did I give up on of myself? What lip service did I give myself? What do I want from the people I'm talking to? What do I think I'm going to get? Because sometimes we really want someone to care and to notice. And we've got to be careful. This is an interesting submissive trait often. It can be a dominant trait as well. So switches, you're fucked. So double, you're not. But it's got that whole feel sometimes of, I want the person to notice that I'm not okay. I want the person to guess. I want them to read my mind. I want them to just know that I'm not all right, and they should just know that. I'm sorry, if any of you have those telekinetic type skills, I really want to understand how you got them. If you don't say what you need, if you don't say what you want, and you're not happy to hold a boundary, that's also where we go wrong. And we go really wrong with that with polyamory and kink as well, often. Especially if we are more neurodivergent or we've had some trauma, where we will then go into the whole fawning mechanism or go into the whole pleasing mechanism. There's a really, really good writing by a writer whose name I now cannot remember, all about fawning. I've reproduced it and I've got the link to it. I would never take credit for somebody else's writing on FetLife because it's such a good thing. And one of the things they advise people to do is if you feel that you've been manipulated by somebody at all in your past, maybe put a little pepper or a warning by their name. Whereas if you look at my chat, the people I really love and adore have a white love heart by their name. Because that white love heart represents that I can be honest, true, and be myself with them. And sometimes you need that reminder because also when you're dating or doing other things, have you noticed how many people zombie you or come back up from the dead? Like around Christmas or different times. Somebody came up the other day and it's not somebody I just deleted them. And they came up. It was interesting because it's like, I think we might have spoken before. And it's like, no, definitely not. And I went, I think we have. I mean, clearly I've had too much cock and cunt in my life and God knows what, because I can't remember. Not somebody I've actually slept with, actually, so, but I don't remember. But what I've now taught myself is put a fucking warning by their telephone number, put a cross, put something, because if it comes up again, I go, bye, or block. And then if they can't talk to me, I know that they can't talk to me. Because we put ourselves out. Repetition compulsion, Bessel van der Kolk talks about this. Some of us in kink, some of us in poly, some of us in relationships go out to repeat the same thing that's happened to us again and again and again to get a different result. But we're doing it in the same way. We're not changing. We're just repeating. And that brings up a lot of shit for us as well. And you watch it in kids. Who here has got kids? I've got four daughters. When they're growing up and stuff, like the amount of times you have to repeat yourself is unbelievable. It's thousands of times. No, don't touch that. No, don't do that. And if you've got a brat for a submissive, you're probably doing the same because they're like, ha, you can hit me. So we're playing those games sometimes, aren't we? But actually learning to ask for what we want is very different. If you're going to punish me, I want a punishment. I want a punishment that means I'm a little bit scared of you. If we want to play, that's something that's completely different. It's fun. It's something between us. It's good. But you've got to know your own boundaries and know what it means. And you've got to be able to say afterwards, that didn't work for me, without saying you assaulted me or you did that wrong. And things like that happen a lot in scenes. And we live in such an interesting culture whereby we cancel a lot of people for getting things wrong. I mentioned before, I had a DM a long time ago where a female submissive said that her male dom had raped her. And not a client, not anything, but just, when I read it, I just felt really sad because there was no rape. There was no force. What had happened was they had an agreement that if ever she was in a little headspace, that they would not have sex and not play graphically or harshly. She was in a very adult space. They were playing very viciously, lots of marks, lots of all sorts of things going on and fucking. She said, I need the loo. He said, leave the door open. That was a new. Don't bring in new things at the wrong time. That was his first fuck up. She, which was her fuck up as well, said yes. And he watched her wipe herself, and when she did, she went straight back into a little headspace. And when she got up and came out, she didn't communicate that she was in a little headspace. She didn't say, I'm little, do not fuck me. He didn't notice that she was little, so they went straight back into the play. That's not rape, that's a clusterfuck. When nobody realised the difference. She couldn't say, he didn't know. That's awful. And what we tend to do in those circumstances is, especially if we know we couldn't say or didn't say, it can also be that we have a tendency to want to blame somebody because it's better than having to deal with the reality of, how do I do this? I was running workshops over COVID and I ended up doing one a week, and there were hundreds of people in there because it was somewhere where people could come and talk about these things. And one person came in and said, you're probably going to tell me that I'm full of shit and I should sort myself out before I ever play or do a scene again. I said, I might do, given my personality, so why the fuck are you here? I said, well, tell us about it. And what they said was, I'm submissive, they're quite strong, they're a male submissive, they work out, they're quite jacked. They work out. You know when you just can't quite reach around to wipe your ass level of jacked? They were a big human. Big human. And what they said was, yeah, but when I come out of that subspace and I'm having a really good time, what I have a tendency to do is I punch the dominant because they've just hurt me. I went, yeah, you shouldn't fucking be playing. If that dominant hasn't consented to being punched or hit, I'm not going to play with you unless I've got you strapped down and I want to know that that shit isn't going to break. You can't just get up and punch someone for what you've just consented to when they haven't consented to it. But they didn't see it as a problem. So we do have to be accountable and look after ourselves on the scene because there are human beings out there with our own problems. I'm one, you're one. We've got our own stuff going on. How much work have you done on yourself? What have you done? So you can only look at what you can change because people are going to say to you, how are you? My sister has palliative care cancer. She was told she had 3 months to live 20 years ago. I had cancer 6 years ago, and she saw me. She did my PICC line care. She did all of the stuff, like, because she's an ex-nurse as well. And really, she shouldn't be alive. She's also got no hair because she had chemo alopecia. because the second set of chemo that she went for took her hair out and that was it, was gone. So she shaves her head, but hair doesn't grow either. You can pluck hair from her body quite easily. And she shouldn't be alive in theory. Richard, her oncologist, said, when I met him, I might even have said this last time, he said, oh, if you lose all of your hair as well, Deb, I could write a paper on you. I was like, fuck off. I quite like my colours in my hair and my things. And he's a really lovely guy, but she doesn't want to change her treatment. She doesn't want anything else to change. She is who she is. But she's had a lot happen. And what people tend to do when they go up to her and they say, oh, Sam, all right, put your fucking head on straight when you talk to me. We do that sympathy, empathy thing, don't we? You okay? And that's quite hard because then we feel, any of you heard of the drama triangle? Who has not? Who has not heard of the drama triangle? So the drama triangle is a transactional analysis approach. I love TA because it gives good explanations about things. It's by a guy called Steve Cartman, and you can look up AC Chong's. So there's a good and a bad version of it, really, of the ways you can get round it. So you've got two different triangles. The drama triangle is interesting. It's when we're in a very childlike place. It's then when we either take one of three positions. We're going to be the rescuer, the victim, or the persecutor. Every argument you've had is on the drama triangle. Every argument you've ever had in your life. For me, it used to be the dishwasher. Again, I've told this story so many times. I come home from working on Harley Street. I'm already feeling sorry for myself. I'm a fucking clinical supervisor and training director of an eating disorders clinic. That's quite heavy stuff because I'm looking at level 3 people who are very close to death, very anorexic. It's quite heavy. I'm like, oh, fuck me, I'm tired. I haven't eaten really. That's my fault, isn't it? If I haven't put a slot in to eat, that's completely down to me. But of course, it's not me. Everyone's got it better than me. It's not fair. Everyone else gets a chance to eat. Oh, here we go, victim. It's not fair. Everybody, nobody, those words that we use. Everybody always, nobody ever. And I would absolutely think about my dishwasher. I bet no fucking cunt in my household has emptied the dishwasher. That's what I would think. Or clean the hob if they used it. Cunts. So I'm coming home and I'm using all that victim language and I walk in and I go up to the dishwasher. You can tell because years ago I had to rechange the hinges on it, bang, slam it down. I knew I was right. No fucker does anything in this house. Nobody cares. They would come down. Bless them. They don't know what they're walking into. This is an ice sheath. It's fucking horrific. They walk into it and they go, did you have a nice day? That sounds safe, doesn't it? Not on my fucking drama triangle, it isn't. It would have been better if you'd have emptied the fucking dishwasher. It's not as if you've done anything for the last 3 or 4 hours. Oh, now I'm persecuting. You should, you must, you could have, why didn't you? You've got to. All that accusation. They've got a choice. They can just go, okay, later. That's the sensible thing to do. But probably what they're going to do is join me on my drama triangle. And now, if I'm taking the persecutor position, there are only 2 positions free, and that's victim or rescuer. So they might feel a bit victimized and say, are you fucking kidding me? I've been working all night. I've had to do this. I've had to do that. Oh, now we're playing, aren't we? Oh my God, I left the house at fucking 10 this morning after doing all these other... Here we go, it's every argument. And we're playing between persecutor and victim. They then might flip to rescuer. All right, well, I'll help you empty the dishwasher. I don't want your fucking help now. It's too late. You should have thought of it earlier. Here we go. These are a great thing for rescuers. These things. How many of you, especially if you're a bit older like me, have a look at something and go, oh, I don't really know how to do that. And you've got a younger person near to you. They take the phone off you and they do it and they go, here you go. And they give it back to you. And they're a bit bewildered because you're not saying thank you. But I still don't know how to do it. So they rescued me, or I still haven't got my news from again, for those who don't know, I find out tomorrow whether I've got 1.5 to 2 years to live or whether I've got a really bad trapped nerve. So I could have bone cancer or I could have done something else. So tomorrow's news is quite juxtapositional. It's quite big. It's quite huge. So I've still got that. So I have quite bad arthritis after chemo in my hand and thumb. I find it really hard sometimes to open a jar. If I stand there and go, I might look around, I might want rescuing by somebody who says, here we go, let me take that, and they go, pop, here we go, have it back. That is pathetic of me, for a start, and it's not healthy of the other person. Really, the other person can say to me, if you want the jar opened, do you want some help? If so, ask. What I need to do, if I can't ask it, is get a fucking jar key, learn to use hot water on a lid to expand it, or find something that pops the vacuum, or something else that will help me, or I need to say, I can't open this, please could you open it for me? And they've still got choice as to whether they do it or not. We play these games every single fucking day. Or we don't want to upset somebody, like if somebody really big and strong goes to open the jar and they're this big dominant human being, and then you can just do it with a pop or in between your thighs or whatever, or I don't want to belittle them, but just fucking hell, that stuff doesn't matter. Whereas AC Choi talks about doing it differently. We can be vulnerable instead of being a victim. We can be a coach or help people through things instead of being a rescuer. And we can also hold our own boundaries when things aren't okay for us. We don't have to then become a persecutor either. So we've got different choices. So even working that out, how much of a victim am I here? Do I want to be? Do other people put me in that place? I'm not saying you are. It's not about saying you're a victim. I'm not saying that. Good, thank you. I'm glad you know. So it's always about what language am I using? What am I doing that's come down to part of this? We often, as submissive, we want to be beaten into something, or we want that permission to do something that maybe isn't acceptable to society or to culture. But actually, we also need to say, yeah, I do really fucking want that. I want to be forced into that, so that that dominant person knows. And as a dominant person, we really need to check, does that person really want what they want here and why? Because we don't want them fawning or fucking. And fucking is a really good response. It's really sensible. If you are in the middle of being attacked by somebody, acquiescence could save your life. We're aware of that from a very evolutionary perspective. So it's important. But if we've got somebody where we have power dynamics with, it's really important not to, because we've got that love and care. Have you got enough there to work on, do you think? Anyone else got an idea that they would like to add to that at all? The idea of somebody saying, look, I keep answering with this in mind, or have you got any ideas for them in any way, shape or form, or anything they could do? Have I just spoken so much that we've lost it, or I've given it all? Okay, let's go. So we've still got half an hour left. Like, if it's too hot in here and I'm too boring, like any of those are fine. Everyone's always free to go. Or do you have a different question? Short or long? Hello. Hello.
I'm currently in a monogamous relationship.
Right.
But I definitely am interested in ethical. However, I don't think my partner is quite there.
Right.
I want to talk to them more about it, but how do I approach that?
Right. That's a brilliant question, and it's one I hear a lot of. So, I'm in a monogamous relationship. I'm interested in ethical non-monogamy. How do I broach it with my partner because they're not quite where I am, or they may or may not be interested? Even if we look at the basics of, am I born this way or made this way? People are into poly or they're not. You cannot make someone polyamorous. Polyamory is not better, it is different. Monogamy is not better, it's different. And people that like to, I do meet the odd polyamorous who will turn around and say, but poly is much more enlightened. Fuck off with your sanctimonious bullshit. It's not more enlightened, it's just different. And I can show you in the natural world where hundreds of species are polyamorous. Well, I can fucking show you hundreds that are monogamous. So let's have that argument right now. Both are acceptable. Both are okay as long as all of you are into it. I don't like the word ethical non-monogamy. So let me explain that. Ethics are very different to each other. Do you need to get out? You're right. So I like consensual non-monogamy more than ethical, because your ethics really may differ with mine. So unless we know each other's ethics, I'm not going to use that word. I prefer something that we agree on. And I'm very much, when we're negotiating things, on the opt-in rather than the opt-out. Because if nothing's on the table, then we agree on everything being brought in, it's better. Do you have any clue if they're into it or not, or if they're curious about it? They know that you've done that. Look, do poly-mono relationships work? If they're okay with anything you do, then of course it works. If they're people-pleasing because they know you want it, but they're not happy with it, that won't work long-term. If you know that it's something that they've never done, and you're not sure if they're into it. It could be that you read an article and you share it with them. It could be that you read a book and you share it with them. It could be that you say, you know, it's something in my life before, it's something I've loved, I'm thinking about it. But of course, as soon as we say to someone, I'm thinking about it, what they hear is, they're going to fuck someone else, they're cheating, that's it, they're cheating. And these warning lights go off. And we all think that poly will happen beautifully and equally. I don't know why we think this, but we all think if we both become polyamorous, we're both going to go off and play with separate partners, or we might have people together, or we might be a triad, we might have kitchen table. There's all sorts of words around polyamory. Fucking hell. It could be that you're as dry as a bottom of a fucking budgie's cage, and this person's having sex and drugs and rock and roll every fucking night. Or it could be vice versa, and they shift and change. And we don't think about things like when our partner breaks up with one of their partners, that it impacts them, that impacts us. We don't think about a lot of these things. If that person is struggling with, also you need to think about money. If you live together and you have joint bank accounts, who's funding the extra things that we are doing? Who's paying for them? Because if I put in 80% of that money and you're the one who's polyamorous, am I okay with you taking some of my money to go on dates with other people? It's really strange. We might be okay about sex. We're a bit weird about money sometimes. It's very British. Funerals, sex, and money. British, we're really bad at. We don't cry at funerals. We dab a tear. Sex, we're having loads of that. No, we're not. Sex is on the decrease, by the way. We're having less sex than we ever have done as a species. It's on the decrease. So when we read about all these people having all this sex and all this stuff, I'm like, yeah, right. Not quite what we think it is always. So you might already have an idea. You know them better than anyone else. What approach would work? That's something you've got to think about. You can come and see someone like me. You can talk it through. You can come and see someone like me who does joint sessions. So it's brought up in the middle where somebody is really listened to. And all the fears are brought out. Because if you've got somebody who really loves and adores you and just wants to please you, they might just say yes. If you've got somebody who thinks, yeah, that might be quite fun, I can shag somebody else, that's not necessarily polyamory. I mean, it's a stupid word, isn't it? Polyamory. It doesn't work. It's Greek, it's Roman, it's fuck knows what. What it is really is a consensual way of involving others, either with the both of you or one of you, with respect and care and consent for the person that you're with. It's not that your relationship is old. There's a real danger to NRE, new relationship energy. I've written about this before. We all say it's lovely. It fucking isn't always. It's really bad for somebody who's left at home sometimes. And weird things hurt us. And I always use the same example around this one. It's not, it might be that, why did you have sex with them in our bed? Why didn't you change the sheets? Why did you let them have my towel? Why did you take them to our favorite place? There are some things that just need to be for us sometimes. Like it's our thing. But then you find out that they're doing it differently. We've all got different ideas as to what it is. I've got a couple that I'm seeing at the moment, whereas he's finding it really hard to meet people. She's got a regular person, they're great friends. She's not really into poly, but she's the one with the serious relationship on the side. But it's not on the side because but how much they talk is maybe on the side a little bit. Although that's coming out now, whereas this person wants submissives that adore him, and she doesn't want that for him. She's happy for him to have sex. She doesn't want him to be adored by other people because otherwise she won't feel special anymore. She's not doing something that's special for him. So we've all got interesting approaches over it. The first thing I would say to you is, do you know your approach to it? Do you know who you are from a polyamorous perspective? Do you know what you want? And do you know what you're offering? Because you're going to sell something. And if you don't know what you're offering, you can't sell it. Now, should we be selling it? I mean, they can drink the Kool-Aid and think that they're into it, but if they're not, they're not. And that's something that's important as well. As a submissive, if I say I like to be punched, for example, because I like some extreme stuff sometimes. A couple of toys I've just bought, some of you might go, what the fuck have you bought? They really hit and hurt. And for a lot of people, if you've got a very traditionally brought up, so some of the stuff I really like can be quite extreme, quite violent, quite whatever. If I meet a very traditional man who is in his 50s and 60s, he might have been brought up in such a way that he doesn't want to hit a woman, doesn't want to hurt a woman. So he's got his own stuff to deal with. So we have to be careful about that as well. All these things around shame and everything come into us, so knowing who you are and what you like is really important. And I want my dominant to want to punch me. If they don't want to punch me, then I don't really want to do punching. Does that make sense? So like knowing who I am, knowing who you are really matters going into it. Somebody in a workshop quite a few months ago said, I'm grey sexual and I'm asexual most of the time and I want to do rope and I want to find a partner who does rope with me, but it must never be sexual. I said, okay, but what does asexual and grey sexual mean to you? How would you say who you are? And they said, well, I don't really know. So that's the place to start. Then knowing that person and how to bring it up is the next place to go. How am I going to bring this up? How are they going to hear me? Because you know, don't do it when you just go to bed. Don't do it when you just, like, probably go to a neutral place if you're going to bring it up. A lot of people get really upset if you do things by text or telephone. Be with a person, talk to them. Maybe don't do it where you can't have a frank conversation and an open conversation. But also if you're going to see a bit of opera or the theatre and you bring it up just before, the interval, fuck me, there are really bad places to do things as well, which you know. But we do try and help ourselves by saying, if I just do it quickly here, then it'll be okay. That's obviously the wrong way a lot of the time. We need a time when we're both not too tired, not too stressed, when we're both okay. We need to think about the positioning. So like these two, the way they're sitting currently, right? They are slightly an angle to each other, yeah? Especially if we take gender into account, if we go back to, it's really important to find out what gender the person is. I don't give a fuck whether they're, who they identify, non-binary, doesn't matter. Finding out how they've been brought up might matter when it comes to communication. Why? If you believe in environmental and genetic upbringing, you've got the hunter-gatherer, and you've got different forms of personality types. If you believe this stuff, right? Often, traditionally, women would sit across from each other, knit and sew, because it's all we're good for, and make food, right? That's what we do. So we do. We're going to grind some bread while our big, strong men go out there and come and fight. It's all a heap of shit, isn't it? But it's not for all of us. So often, women are quite used to having conversations that are face-to-face. Men, while they're off with their big spears, because that's all men do as well, they're big spears, don't they? And they go and attack things. Can you hear my sarcasm? I hope you can. So it's side-by-side conversations. If you've got a really masculine, regardless of their gender, if you've got a masculine type next to you, sometimes talking in a car can be a good thing because they prefer the side-by-side, not the direct confrontational looking. The best way to talk is actually hand in hand, slightly across from each other, taking them both into account. It's really hard when you're holding hands with somebody, right? So they put their hand out. Is that consent? Yeah. So when I'm holding hands, it's very hard to say, you're a complete and utter cunt because you did that to me. Because we're often like this, aren't we? Right? So you're a fucking how dare you because we're using our hands and we're shouting at them. That is a lot harder to do. A lot harder. So that's good for us because we're more likely to say, and we should always go with when I feel I want. Not you did this, it's your fault, you should have done this. When you did this, I felt this. I own that, I take that as my responsibility. I would like us or this to be slightly different. That's a much better thing. If you look at research around the Gottmans, because they're very good at couples, very fucking good at couples, they can tell with 98% accuracy when someone comes into their room after half an hour whether they're going to stay together or break up. And I've only ever done this once in one session where I had a couple come in and I said, there is no point you carrying on seeing me unless it's how you're going to break up. He said, there's a 1% chance of us working out. I'm in love with somebody else. What is there not to hear in that? Like, fucking hell. Like, so you're going to pay me like over 100 quid a session for what? For better communication? If you want to do that, let's do that. So you've got to think about, what is it I want here? Do I really want to jeopardize this relationship? But if I jeopardize it, that's a risk. But then if I don't, do I want to jeopardize myself and who I am? And are you not getting something from it? Is that why you want something else? Like what's going on for you? And exploring that a little bit is really important. What is it I want? Can another person give it to me? No, not everything, not always. And yes, we can have multiple people that give us different things, but it still might be lacking. We don't know always. And it's all well and good saying, well, I'm not getting that, But will you get that even if that person then leaves and you find other people? Anyone here single and dating? Or together and dating? Or dating? It's pretty fucking horrible out there. It's not the most pleasant place. It's not easy to find what you're looking for, especially if you, as I say, I just wrote this massive piece with lots and lots of research on it, based on the film The Materialist, where she was the matchmaker. We base a lot of things on lists, but people aren't a fucking list. Yes, it's really nice that you're dominant. It's really nice that you're submissive, and that's nice, but it won't make a relationship work. Your ethics, morals, and values do. The way you communicate is really important. The way you hear and comprehend is really important. But again, it's not everything. It comes back to our ethics, our morals, and our values. Some similarities with some differences. So relationships are more complex than we think. So is it that you're not getting your needs met? Is it something you need to challenge in the relationship that maybe you don't want to do? Because that would be hard as well. I'm not saying any of these things are true. They're just questions. And if you really want to do this because it's fundamentally you, even moving forward, don't ever be with someone who isn't. Polyamorous then, make sure you find somebody who's got a similar moral, a similar consensual framework to you. But then the things happen, emergencies happen, or we have children, we do things, and we change as we age. We do change as we age. We want different things at different ages. We just do. So what is it I'm looking for? Knowing yourself is a really good place to start. But bring it up in a non-confrontational way when you're both not tired. Don't make it that they're lacking. Make it that you're wanting something. Know that then you're not having a go at them through that is really important, because, well, you don't do this for me and I really want that. That's going to be really destructive. And/or think about some couples therapy or something that can help you bring it up, and think about all the pros and the cons for both of you. Because if you bring it up and you don't find what you're looking for and they go off and have a good time and they're having a great time, will you be as okay with it? Is it okay? Now, a lot of us have compersion. Do we know what compersion is? That's that love and care and affection when somebody else is getting pleasure in a polyamorous relationship and we feel that love for them, that they're having a good time with other people. But some of us don't. Some of us just go, it's all right for you. And that big green-eyed monster comes out. Because to turn around and say you're not jealous, that's interesting. I want to know more about you, because it's a feeling. It's a normal fucking feeling. And most polyamorous people still feel jealous. But a feeling, so you have emotions that are visceral. They are signs to your body about what's going on in your breathing, in your sweating, in everything else as well. The feeling is an interpretation of that physiological thing that comes from things like our upbringing or how we interpret things. So no one's feelings are the same. They don't also necessarily come from the same emotion. It's very easy. When I'm with my cheerleaders, I tell them to turn their t-shirt inside out often, because I'm so fucking scared and I'm so anxious. So are you excited? Because they're the same feeling deep down. They're really interesting. The symptoms, heart racing, dry mouth, can't breathe. That's excitement as much as it is, by the way, it's nervousness. It's not anxiety like that. It's anxiety. It fucking isn't. Again, we don't use words properly. So to go from an emotion to a feeling is an interpretation. Is your interpretation right? Is it the same? What aren't you getting? Who are you? And for me, it's then about the action. You have an absolute right to feel angry. You don't have a right to be aggressive or be a cunt about it. And it's down to you to sort your anger out, regardless of what's happened. So there's a big difference between a verb, a noun. They're different things. One is the doing of, one is the feeling of. And we're teaching a lot of our children, not only are you entitled to your feelings, you're entitled to act like a complete cunt about it as well. That's very bizarre to me, because it's not healthy. Because I don't know about you, anyone else here work? Anyone else got some form of job or ever had a job, right? It's funny, you can't act like a cunt, you get fat. You get fired, don't you? You get sacked or something happens. Unless you're a professional dominatrix, then you'll be as much of a cunt as you like. But you still got to please your clients, haven't you, to a certain extent? Otherwise, they're not going to come back. So it's the action that's the problem. So sometimes when people act out, like if he has a very strong reaction to it and isn't comfortable with it, it might not even be what he means. It might be that he's hurting or something else is happening, and we need to give people time rather than saying, well, that's not what I expected. You should be, oh, here we go, drama triangle. You should be doing this, like, I will give you time. How long do you need? And please talk to me. Does that any of that make sense? Would anyone add anything to that as well? When we're trying to talk in a mono-poly situation, we're trying to say to our partner, come and be poly. Like, would anyone else give any advice at all? Have you got anything to say that you think would add to that? Anyone here been in that position before? Taking your marriage or your relationship or something to something it wasn't? What worked or didn't work? You don't have to answer.
I'm very new to my first master,
Right.
so I don't know.
So, can I repeat that? So, he's poly, I'm very new, he's my first master, so I don't know. And that is the truth at the end of the day. And it's also, how reliable can someone be? If as a top we're saying, or as a partner, I'm always going to come back, I will be back by then, I will sort these things out. That consistency says a lot for changing from monogamy to polyamory. The consistency of care, the consistency of looking after somebody else. If we don't, that can be really dangerous. I know I said I'll be back by 10, but they need this, I'll be back in the morning. Then, that's a very different thing if I haven't agreed to that really. So when, like for example, if somebody says, I'll be back by 10, but then they give you a phone at 10:30, which is also way later and too late, I'm really sorry, they need this, I'll be back in the morning. That can make us feel really out of sorts. So doing what you promise and coming through with it is really important as well. And we don't always know, because we don't know what it means. Plus, fuck me, I've slept with a lot of people, I've had sex with a lot of people, I've had a lot of relationships, done lots of different things. Each person I meet is new, and their responses will be different each and every time. And maybe I've changed and grown in that time as well. So you have to work out what it means as well. And you know your partner better than anyone else. So you were going to say?
So the way it's sort of, I think that with my partner, we started monogamous, and then moved to poly. Well, first we moved to open, and then it
So, well, that's interesting as well, isn't it? Even as a phrase, like what's the difference? So what they're saying is that they were in a partnership and they moved from monogamy to open and then open to polyamory. Is there a difference? Like,
for us, there was.
yeah, in our words and definitions. So again, knowing what you mean.
Yeah, so for us, so my partner and they don't like me talking about it at all. So I'm going to say somewhere roughly on the asexual spectrum really fluctuates, whereas my sexuality is quite up there.
So again, talking about differences, what they're saying is that their partner is pretty asexual, their sexuality is much more up there.
Yeah.
So again, there's a difference in need, isn't there?
Yeah, so I think because it was more to do with, like, it was all about the why for us, so that we opened up that part of our relationship.
So the sexual part was opened up, just sex.
And then my partner wanted to date someone. And
So that was a change. So we're just sexual, but then their partner wanted to date someone. So again, all these things need extra conversations each time. So what does it mean, dating? How is it different to sex?
And that was the key for us, was like the main sort of part of the conversation, positive and negative, was why. So why do we work like what we were, why do we need this?
But it also sounds, with what you're saying, they're talking about the whys a lot, bringing up the why. Why do you want to do this? Why don't you? What's going good and bad? But they could sit and talk about it.
Yeah.
That's one of the differences as well, when people can actually listen and hear. Is your partner ready to hear? Is your partner ready to have a conversation? That's an interesting one as well.
Yeah.
But those discussions are hard.
They are, yeah. So for us, the biggest one for us was why are we feeling jealousy? And it was a case of, are we missing something? Are we seeing other people get something that we want? Or are we just, because I think there is a certain level of like conditioning, like societal pressure of what you're supposed to feel when you come from monogamy.
Yep. So they're talking about the societal and cultural expectations of Their biggest question for them was around jealousy. Why are we feeling jealousy? What does it mean? Should we, shouldn't we? I really want to normalize jealousy, right? Jealousy is, oh my God, if that person gives it to you, you might leave me. It's a fear of loss. That's what jealousy is fundamentally. That if you get something from that person and I'm the one giving it to you, you might go. But then they still choose you and they're with you, so it becomes really confusing. Envy is I want what you've got and I want you not to fucking have it. That's different. And we get the two confused very often. Why should you have that car? That's envy, that's not jealousy. Jealousy is a fear of loss. I will lose you if you get what you want. But there again, you can probably name 300 times where I've given you what you want and we're not always doing very well either. Novelty comes into it, different things. And it's one of the hardest conversations to have. The normalization of jealousy. I will probably stop there because we're near enough near the end. Thank you very much for your time, very appreciated. You can add me on FetLife. You can come and get my number if you want a certificate or anything, or you can do that on FetLife. I'm The Kink Shrink, capital T, capital K, capital S. I've got like 800 writings, like fucking hell, I cover most things. And I run free workshops as well every month on Zoom that you are very welcome to. Plus I'm here most months. The odd one I'm not. I try and split it because we have cheer competitions. And I'm definitely not here in May always because I'm at Worlds, because I go over with my daughter to help with the kids with cheerleading. Because we take like 60 athletes over, so it's quite a lot. So I'm mainly here, but feel free to grab me, whatever. I don't mean grab me. I mean talk to me. Unless you're my type. No, that's a joke. Most people are my type. So I like humans, you know. So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. And if you want to do anything else, let me know. Thank you very much. Thank you.